Hi and welcome to Historymakers TV. I'm Matt Prater. Today we're catching up with Watto Watson from Shit Happens, and he's got one of his mates, Wayne Niebling, joining us on the couch today. How are you guys?
Yeah, good, thank you, Matt. Good.
Yeah, good to be here with you, Matt. This is pretty special. Good to be with you too, Wayne.
Thank you. Yeah, and likewise.
Wayne, tell us a bit of your story, mate.
It's I guess I'm like most blokes. I don't feel like I've got much of a story to tell, I guess I've been involved in shed for quite a few years, and it's made a massive difference in my life about how I see myself.
Interesting comment there. You said how I see myself. Blokes always give you a little indicator so that you can ask them more questions. Wayne, how did you see yourself when you were a little boy growing up?
It's kind of interesting, Ian. I probably spent most of my life trying to measure up to something or attain to something that I never felt quite good enough. So I probably overdid everything, trying to get, the poor me, the looking for attention. Just trying to get some kind of a sense of self-worth, I guess.
Where did you fit in the family? Just mum and dad? How old were they when they had you? A few of those sort of things. I
was the youngest. In fact, the youngest of four that I know, but my mum and dad lost 4 children before they actually saved my eldest brother. So I guess that plays a fairly big impact on how they saw me. The last of 8, so I was probably spoiled. My family reckon I was a pretty spoiled little bloke, seeking attention all the time. And
how old was Dad when you were born?
Dad was 45. So it's interesting because I'd never really thought too much about it, but as a kid, most of the kids my age, their parents were like in their 20s or 30s, and everybody thought my parents were like grandparents. So I never realised how much of an impact that had on how I felt about myself.
Now, also, what happened when it was time of the year to take the school photo? Where were you? Were you the big bloke standing up the back in the middle, the tallest, or where were you?
Yeah, this is the part that used to crush me. Every year, I remember every year, I was the bloke that held the slate in the front that had 1A, or right through. I did 10 years at school, and for the whole 10 years, I was the bloke that held that number.
How did you really feel about that? Come on.
It devastated me. I wanted to be the bloke, the tall fella up the back. And it was crazy because I started school when I was 4, so of course I was always going to be the little kid. I was up to 2 years younger than most kids in my class, so I'd be surprised if I was ever going to be the tallest kid, but it actually crushed me. I hated every year, and I used to almost think, just 1 year it'd be nice to not hold that damn number.
So when they picked the team and they'd go, I want that bloke, I want that bloke, I want that bloke, because you were the little bloke, you were always the last bloke standing and they didn't want you in the team?
Pretty much.
Well, you better come in our team. Is that how you felt?
Yeah, pretty much, and you never kind of measured up. Unless of course a mate of mine was the bloke that was picking the team, and he'd probably pick me probably out of sympathy, I guess.
So the poor me, woe is me, please look at me type thing, just roll that along a bit there, and how did your father take to that, and how did you roll up into your life?
Well, it's quite amazing. Again, until recently I'd never even understood what that really meant. The poor me stuff, but it played out so much in relationships in my marriage. I've been married now twice, and I guess there's probably nothing much more repulsive to a woman than a bloke that is seeking attention all the time. So when something happened or I did something, it was probably to gain some kind of, you're okay, it's okay to be you. And when I didn't get it, I'd try harder. So it probably ruined my first marriage. I didn't feel like I ever really measured up. And I guess in a way probably almost ruined my second marriage until I guess I realised that, well, I am good enough.
Don't go anywhere. There's another amazing guest coming up soon on Historymakers TV.
Children? First marriage, second marriage, what?
Yeah, 2 lovely kids to my first marriage. Fantastic. They're grown up. My daughter's married, and my son has done uni and is moving along in life and got a great girlfriend. But I guess that whole relationship stuff has an ability to rub off on our kids. So part of my pain is the damage that that part of me as their dad, as a man, has left them a little bit scarred, and we talk about it a bit, and I guess I hope and pray that along the way that they see, you know, the importance of honesty in their heart, particularly coming before God, confessing your stuff, and being the real deal instead of, you know, trying to be something that you already are, but you don't know about it yet.
So when do you've said the real deal a couple of times, when does that really hook in to go, well, I'm the only one believing this lie, what do I do about it? What's your faith and belief in God? When did that become a reality to you more than just a word thing?
Well, I've been brought up in the church from a little tackler. The reality, I guess, is for me, that I've had moments in my life where God's really spoken deeply into my life, and you know, one occasion we travelled all the way to the state, America, to catch up with some people we'd met through our Christian walk, and it was just a marvellous time to deal with some youth and stuff, and they were all great times. But I think for me the real issue was, you know, the Bible talks about confessing your sins and be healed, and I guess for me, the first time I was interviewed at a shed was really terrifying, because there was some stuff I knew I needed to talk about, but I didn't think it was anybody else's business.
So you reckon that confess your sins one to another is for real? It is. Oh. It does work?
It's what makes me passionate now to actually make opportunity for other blokes to be able to do likewise, because it's, and I think that passion is about, your story may also help someone else, but I've never ceased to be surprised, even now, even today, as we talk. You know, there's things that God reveals to me about myself that still need to be teased out. So I guess in a way I'm a work in progress still.
So God knows your heart.
Absolutely.
You've been a bloke who's belted your heart the whole way.
Yeah.
And you've come to know the reality that you can confess your sins and be healed, and you're sick of living the lie, and you know that you get the freedom on the cross from the shame. Right up to this point in time, how does that lived out in your workplace?
Look, it's always been a difficult thing, even in the workplace. I work for myself, so you know, it starts with me and it finishes with me. But I guess the freedom that comes is quite amazing, because we talk a lot about freedom. Jesus died on the cross and claimed victory for us, and we have freedom. But we can know that in our head, but until we actually get it into our heart, we live in chains. And we also talk a lot about chains. See, I hear people say they're chained to Jesus, and I don't think I'm chained to Jesus. I'm there, but he gives me the freedom to come and go. Okay,
so in the practical, you told me about a particular case where you felt a little bit, the little boy thing again, being overrode, but you've actually stood up for who you are with good consequences.
Yeah.
Tell the viewers that, because that could help a lot of people in where they're at.
It's quite amazing. I've been listening to a bit of you know, Christian businessmen's stuff, and I have no ambitions to be a millionaire or multi-millionaire or whatever, but just I think that the whole thing is about being authentic before God in your business, and it's hard to do that when you try so hard to be something that the world is asking you to be. So I try and be fairly honest. So what happened was I had put a report in of the work that I had done, and this particular person questioned me about it. And normally I would have probably got dirty and thought, you know, you have no idea what you're talking about, I'm being honest, and you know, like, you have no right. And instead of doing that, and it was quite a miracle, I think, for me anyhow, that instead of doing that, I listened to the person very clearly of what they were saying. And listening is not one of my big skills, I must admit. So probably for the first time I really listened intently, because there's a lot hanging on this for my business and my livelihood and for my family. And heard what was being said, and then explained exactly why and how. And I had been given the runaround a fair bit on this particular job, and had given a fair bit, and felt really unjustly dealt with. So after I had listened to this whole situation, I just explained where I was coming from, and did it nicely, and walked away. And I go back to this default part of the poor me, and I thought, yeah, this person, I hope I never have to work for them again, because what a pain. And yet, it's a place that I get a fair bit of my income from. I got home, and this particular person had sent me an email, and quite humbled me, apologised for the altercation, and which then just made me realise, hand it to God.
And grow up type thing.
Yeah, it's not about me. It's not all about me.
Now, Shed, and you talked about confess your sins, spill it out, get it out. You're about to embark on an annual your fun trip. So what do you do for fun, Wayne? What do you really like?
I'd like to have said I've been doing this for 20 years, but I've managed to do it once. I missed on last year.
So what do you do?
We got a trip to Fraser Island with about 33 blokes to do fishing and do life for a week. Fishing is probably the fun part, but doing the life is the exciting part.
So what's that doing life mean? Does that mean really spill your guts type
Well,
James 5:16 stuff, or what?
It's amazing when you're sitting around cooking a meal together, or doing a bit of fishing, or just sitting in the ute going up and down the beach looking for where the fish are, that ultimately you win the trust of each other. It's amazing some of the issues that we talk out, and I'd say probably a fair number of the blokes are Christian fellas, but there's probably a fair number of blokes that are probably unsure about, you know, who God is and what He's about. So ultimately, there's opportunity. I don't certainly look for it, but the opportunity comes up, and they will ask, you know, how do you know that He's the real deal? How do you know He's not a fairy tale? And they watch the way you do life. So how you behave, if you're swearing your head off like a buffhead and behaving, you know, in a bad way, well, they would see God as, well, He's a fairy tale because you don't behave like that. Yeah.
Now, so you're going to have a lot of fun, and you'll be encouraged and connect a lot. Just winding up now, your second marriage.
Yeah.
Is your now wife got more of a real deal man? Does he step up to the plate, or is he still looking for the soft options and on his wife? What's the real deal?
That's probably a question you might be better asking her. But I'd like to think that I give her the best of me now. It's not so much. I guess every now and then I sort of sit there and I think, you know, is it about me? And I try not to make it about me. But I believe that she's now got the better part of the man that God created me to be, for sure. And
what's your wish for the men of Australia in the short term?
In the short term, I guess I would love them to get to know that I meet so many men that think that everything that goes wrong, God's punishing them. I ran away from everything hard most of my life, and I guess robbed myself of God building character in me. So I would encourage people and give people, particularly men, the hope that there is a future. No matter what you're going through, there's you know, God's got a plan.
Matt, another one of our champions, Wayne Niebling. I think we can truly call him a champion son of the King today.
Absolutely. Wayne, it's been so good to hear your story, mate. I reckon you're a history maker. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you for your time.
Good on you, mate. Thank you, Watto.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks,
Thanks, Wayne.
You're on Historymakers TV. We'll have more coming up soon.